Well, a very, very happy Thursday, and welcome to another episode of the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Today is December 11th of 2025, and we have a bunch of stuff to get to you today. We are going to prepare ourselves for Week 15 football as there's a couple as teams have their first chance of clinching a playoff spot, and I'll go over those. There are other handful of teams that are on the verge of elimination, and the Bengals are one of them. So I will explain that. I wanted today to be a good podcast. I always thrive for a good podcast. Unfortunately, there was some news that kind of broke out in different categories that last night it kind of changed my demeanor. And I'm just kind of, kicking myself because it seems to be an endless process here in Cincinnati when it comes down to sports. One of the breaking news will kick things off starting in baseball. The Baltimore Orioles and the not the Cincinnati Reds, excuse me. The Baltimore Orioles and free agent Pete Alonso has come to terms with a 5-year, $155 million contract that takes him off the market. Now, Pete Alonso was not necessarily someone that was in everyday conversations when it came down to a potential Red candidate. I know early on in this offseason, during the postseason, we heard a few rumors that the Reds could be eyeing a first baseman in Pete Alonso as he hit free agency. And the Mets, listen, they're kind of undealing. That's a conversation for another day. But it didn't seem unreasonable to at least think or ponder the Reds potentially going out and getting a guy of a statue like Pete Alonso. Alonso, he batted 272 last season. He had 41 doubles. He had 126 RBIs, and he hit 38 home runs. And when we're looking at, well, what does the Reds need to do to improve? There's no questions asked. Power hitting guys. It's great to be able to go out there and play fundamental baseball when guys get on base, drive them in. But we have nobody that really holds the 3, 4, 5 spot guy that you feel confident enough to go out there and with 2, 1, 2, maybe the bases loaded, could hit a bomb out there to right or left field or even dead away center. And collectively, it does take the entire team to hit bombs here and there. That's what makes their home runs powerful. But, this is just another source. And I'm not saying that the Reds completely failed on this, but the fact that they weren't really as aggressive to get Kyle Schwarber. They left $25 million off the table. That I think if Kyle Schwarber was offered the same contract that the Phillies offered, then we would have been talking about a different conversation here. But we left Kyle Schwarber off the table. The what ifs pour now about Pete Alonso. And the only thing that I see around the Reds organization here during the winter meetings as they have concluded is that we picked up a closer, which we probably overspent on, in my opinion, that although he had a solid season last year, I question the games that were given up. And we still don't have power hitting guys. And now this list of free agencies that are capable of that, I think we like that are capable of bringing the power hitting, to the table is off the table, right? It was kind of narrowing down. because I see. So Pete Alonso went to um, Pete Alonso went to Baltimore, and I see you have Kyle Schwarber with um, Philadelphia. Trent Grisham accepted arbitration with the Yankees. Devin Williams went to the Mets. Edwin Diaz went to the Dodgers. Mike Yastrzemski signed with the Braves, I believe. I think I know there's conversation about Ryan O'Hearn out there. Josh Naylor's acceptable, but we're not looking initially at any big at bats, in my opinion. I mean, the only reports that I see during the winter meetings at all is that the Reds are looking to find a second baseman. And the options that they're looking into is having to make a trade that includes names like Ketel Marte, who is out of Arizona. He's 32 years old. He's batted 283 last season, 28 home runs, 72 RBIs. Or Tampa Bay second baseman Brandon Lowe, who's 31, batted 256 with 31 home runs. The good news is both of them seem to at least have some power hitting skills to them. I will tell you this, that playing in Cincinnati, playing at Great American Ballpark is completely different than playing at any other ball club there is. It brings its own uniqueness. The humidity doesn't carry the ball as often, keeps it short, and your body really has to be able to adjust to the weather out here in Cincinnati. And look, Chicago, they deal with the snow. Boston, same thing. I mean, granted, there are places. Detroit is not easy to play at either when it comes down to weather conditions, but Cincinnati doesn't make anything easier. So my question I ask is, I wanted to re-dive into this possible contract that we missed on Kyle Schwarber. Lance McAllister, who reports Cincinnati Reds, made a statement yesterday that I wanted to read. It broke down, okay? He was been thinking about the Cincinnati Reds and how we offered 5 years, $125 million. The Phillies offered him 5 years, $150 million. That's a $5 million gap per year. And if you did some Butler math on that, how much did it really offer to take? So, for argument's sake, if Kyle would have boosted, Kyle's appearance, let's just say boost Great American Ballpark's attendance by 5,000 per game. That would bump the Reds up to 31,000 fans per game, which matches their total from 2013. So I mean, certainly doubled. 5,000 more fans per game for times 81 dates adds another 405,000 fans, plus average ticket price of $30 per ticket. It comes out to roughly $12.5 million. So if you think about if you think about 150 million, I'm going to do the math right here with you guys. Woo. Divide that by 5 years. That's $30 million. Okay. Now, based off of this is what's added. You got to remember, this is what's added on. So we take $30 million. That's a season for Kyle Schwarber's contract. And now you subtract 12,500,000, and you're only spending technically about $17.5 million for Kyle Schwarber. Not to mention that there's parking, not to mention concessions, TV ratings, radio ratings, any playoff appearances. maybe multiple playoff appearances, hopefully, maybe a ring in hindsight. So when you start thinking of the calculations alone, I mean, I guess the ultimate question is, we go out there to see Ellie Dela Cruz. We go out there to see Hunter Green. Do you go out to the ballpark to see Kyle Schwarber? I was going out to the ballpark to see Nick Castellanos. I was going out to see Joey Votto. I was going out to see Jesse Winker and Tommy Pham. And I would go out there to see Mike Moustakas. Nothing compared to what we offer here with the Kyle Schwarber. This is as if we picked up, this is as big as a name that you would pick up as if, when Seattle, if I don't know, let's say the Padres was able to get Edwin Diaz. You come in to see it. I mean, I remember growing up in San Diego, I went out to Padres games all the times. I wasn't, I love to go out there to watch Jake Peavy pitch. I go out there because I wanted to watch Adrian Gonzalez play first base. I wanted to go out there to see Brian Giles make a dive, but I ultimately went out there because I wanted to see Trevor Hoffman. I wanted to stay until the ninth inning to listen to those gongs and the lights turn out when Hell's Bells played at the appearance of Trevor Hoffman, number 51, a Padres Hall of Famer, baseball Hall of Famer in my books. I mean, this is a big step forward. And what the Reds just got done doing, we may think that $125 million to Kyle Schwarber is a lot of money for that, granted. But we did not show anybody that we are serious about winning. In the long run, the Reds offered a deal that was not good enough for Kyle Schwarber. For a ball player of this caliber. In an attempt to make an improvement to this organization that would show us fans, show the NL Central, show the players that are going to report to spring training next February, show the entire major league roster that the Reds are serious about winning, that our wild card and our winning record last year was not a fluke, that we are not just a team to be trampled over or to be afterthought math, that we are going to make the right adjustments to playing the right game, and that's picking up the right players. Pete Alonso was another guy. He adds another $5 million to that deal. That's $10 million a year. Well, that's not even $10 million a year. That's 30,000 times. So that's about $7.5 million a year. That's only 22, about less than $20 million a year for a Pete Alonso. Same concept. And I don't know the details behind the deal, but I'm getting a bit annoyed with how, we have, I think, so much potential. We're such a great ball club, but our ownership settles for subpar average. Last season, if I had to give us a grade level, the Reds were, I don't know, a C plus, B minus at best. And you go into the off seasons thinking, hey, we are maybe a solid, I'd even say solid B. Let's say solid B. But how do you improve from there? And one of the things you have to improve, you got to get some players. And I guess, we'll wait and see what happens with the Ketel Marte or Brandon Lowe. Now, there's been a lot of talks about it here this week alone. So I'm interested to see if a deal gets done, who we are going to offer to send over to them. And what type of impact that this player would have. If you're asking me today if we could get a deal done, who would I choose to play or to receive? And I'm saying I would like to have Ketel Marte. I think that would be a plus. I think you would, in my opinion, I would have Spencer Steer at first. I would have Ketel Marte at second, Ellie De La Cruz at short, Key Brian Hayes at third. I'd have Christian Encarnacion Strand, who could play both first and third base. On the infield, I'd also include Matt McLean, who could play around the horn, also in the outfield, and I'd go off of that, right? So, let's be serious for a second. We can't sit here and give the Reds and give Nick Krall and the Castellinis a pat on their back for saying, "Hey, we tried, but we failed." No, there's no such thing. This is a blockbuster deal that could have really catapulted the Reds roster, and we're going to see it affect us because realistically, Kyle Schwarber is going to play us 6-7 times this season. Edwin Diaz is going to pitch against us at least 2 or 3 times this season. Hopefully, we could keep things in better perspective. I mean, I don't know about you, but I have a little salty taste in my mouth after the Dodgers beat up on us last season, especially in the wild card. Now they are just adding gas to that fire with Edwin Diaz. I mean, who's walking out of this deal is Dave Roberts. He's not going to have to worry about his job security because he has one if not the best closer in all of baseball today. That wish list that I have, because I have it right here, okay? I have to mark off Pete Alonso now. I mean, Josh Bell is still available, but his batting average is down. No guys on second base because that's it. I'm looking at the perspective of free agency, and I'm just looking out there because, who else could possibly be an option for this ball club? I don't know. Harrison Bader. I'm struggling to say let's go back to Eugenio Suarez or or Jesse Winker or an Austin Hayes. But I don't know. Maybe we add to the bullpen. Maybe this can't be done. We have to find something more than what meets the eye. And I got a feeling because this is what it usually ends up happening, right? If we don't get a deal done before Christmas, we're not going to see a deal done until late January, early February. What is the atmosphere going to be like when we go into spring training in February? And I feel that this atmosphere, if we don't add players, I feel like we'll be taking a step backwards in progression. But, man, some big news coming out of baseball yesterday, wrapping up winter meetings. The Chicago White Sox get the first round in the Rule 5 draft. And I guess we'll just have to see, but we're missing out on some clear opportunities here, so to speak. So, all right, before we get into the next topic here, Lighting Studios is kicking off with the 2026 with their new theater production called Grassroots. Come check out their performance at the Artsville Theater in Cincinnati, Ohio, from February 20th through March 1st. Tickets still available by visiting TicketTailor.com. A link in the description will be provided below. Alrighty, look, Joe Burrow. Forgot about this. I didn't really catch this until afterwards. This is how much I'm into it. But Joe Burrow, happy belated birthday to the guy. I just want to take a moment and just reflect what Joe Burrow has done for this organization. And he's taken this team to new lanes. He's proven to the NFL just how good he is. He is one of the top quarterbacks, in my opinion. He's not number one. Maybe he's not number 5. But one of the biggest issues, but he's in the top 10. But one of my biggest issues with Joe Burrow is that he's injured. He gets injured about every other year. Now, a lot of that has to do with the amount of times this offensive line allows him to get sacked. I was looking at a point yesterday on social media, and it was comparing salary caps. And they specifically compared the Bengals salary cap offensively and defensively to the Bengals. And Eagles are 8-5. They are first in the NFC East division. They are number 3 seed heading into the AFC playoff picture if it stands as it stands today. The Philadelphia Eagles cap offensively, okay, sits at $133.5 million, while their defense sits at $76 million. Let me remind you, this is a defending Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles, who sit in first place with a winning record in the NFC East, sits at $133 million in expenses on offense and $76 million on defense. Okay? Let's paint you a perspective. Where does the Reds sit at? This Reds team offensively sit at $115 million to a $79 million defense. Look how close those numbers are. We are putting the same amount of money, given a few $1 million difference, in our offensive defense compared to what the Philadelphia Eagles put in. I don't think we can sit here and say that our failures has to do with the lack of income, lack of finances that Mike Brown has for this Bengals team. Because when you put the same salary cap up against the Eagles and they're winning, we got to take a long, hard look in the mirror. They got Jalen Hurts. They got A.J. Brown. They got Saquon Barkley. I mean, they have the same tools that we have. They're not perfect this year. They lost 5 games, and I think there's been obviously some conversations about really how well can the Eagles make a run back to the Super Bowl. But at the end of the day, we sit at the same salary cap they do. You know, Joe Burrow turns 29 yesterday. Happy birthday. I wish him the best. I don't know what's been up and down, but he had a social media conference like he does every Wednesday. And, you know, maybe we're all overthinking it, but come on. Yesterday was really difficult to watch. It was difficult to listen to. And we know Joe Burrow. He is kind of short in his answers. He kind of is reserved and, allows people to, doesn't allow people to get into his head. But there was no sense of energy. Our captain, our leader, the person who, if we have a chance to make it to the postseason, this is the guy, Joe Burrow, behind the realm, pulling the strings. This is the reason why he came back early from a turf toe injury. He, if anyone's going to lead us to the postseason, he is. And the energy that he has, maybe he woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Maybe he had a bad day at practice. Maybe he's extremely tired. I don't know what the reasoning is, and I hope it's just a simple reasoning. But Joe Burrow's attitude for media this week tells the entire story and some. It explains what this team has to offer. We're at our wit's end. Really feels this is how we feel when Cincinnati fans are trying to address the media themselves right now. But what's going for you in Cincinnati? It is what it is. We play. We play to win. There's no excitement. There's no enthusiastic, and it was kind of very depressing yesterday. Doesn't seem like he's having fun, and a lot of people are out here talking about, well, maybe he's hinting in early retirement. Maybe he wants to step away for a little while. But who blames him? Every other year since he's got up to the majors, he has gotten hurt at the expense of his offensive line. He has been taken out of the season, and when he has been able to return, his back's up against the wall. Do you think any other? I wouldn't. I don't know anyone else who would want to come back week 12 and say, if you lose your one game in the final games of the season, you're out of the postseason. No. He didn't even want to go out with a toe injury. I mean, that's understandable. But at the same time, the bigger question is that he's still this team. If there's any hope, if there's any fate in this Bengals, maybe Joe Burrow's future, his body language, his tone, his statements yesterday, his press with the media yesterday tells a lot between the lines. And whether he denies it or not, it seems like Joe Burrow's not happy. Maybe he's not happy with the team's performance. Maybe he's not happy with Zach Taylor. Maybe he's not happy with the fan base and the lack of support, or, hey, why are you supporting this? I don't know. Maybe he's not happy with the record and the results that he's in, or the situation that this Bengals team is in, because he comes here to win. He didn't come in here to be the next Andy Dalton for the next decade. He came here to win. And when you see Trey Hendrickson, your best defensive player, out for the rest of the season because of a hip injury, it's gut-wrenching. When you see T. Higgins back out with a concussion after he had an incredible game last week against the Bills, it's gut-wrenching. I mean, you're putting yourselves, your backs up against the wall, heading into final weeks of the season where you don't have room for errors. You don't have room for mistakes. He's probably not 100% cleared or even ready to go. He's probably still dealing with aches and pains, and he probably rethought about this, hey, coming back too soon. Listen, I get it. We know that Joe Burrow wants to be out here on the field. We know that Joe Burrow prefers to be playing. But when you have such good talent that you see in Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and so for some reason things aren't coming together and clicking and they're not winning, sometimes you have to look in the mirror. They put up the points last week. Defense gave in. You get mad at, you get upset that he threw 2 interceptions, but those points could have been held for 3 and not 7. So, listen, Joe, I'm right there with you. Be upset. Let us know how upset you are. I think ownership needs to know how upset you are. I wouldn't want this to allow him to get in the way of him making a decision of his career yet. I think he has so much to offer. But reality is that if the Bengals are going to keep Joe around the league, what are you going to do to make him happy? How are you going to keep him from getting hurt week in and week out on the field? It's not just Joe Burrow. It's everyone out across the line. We have the payroll. We could pay players. So what do we do? I tell you, I feel the pain. I feel the agony. I am upset, probably just as much as he's upset, because our back are against the wall the next 4 weeks. And it kicks things off this Sunday as we host the Baltimore Ravens. We're about to get a snowstorm in here. It's going to expected to be in the teens, if not single digits, come Sunday. And you don't have T. Higgins. You don't have Trey Hendrickson. Jermaine Burton was released from the team earlier this week. And you have to win the rest of your games And on top of that, you need the Ravens to lose 2. You need the Steelers to lose 3, whatnot. But to give us a fighting chance, we have to succeed. So, before we get into that, and we look at the playoff picture heading into week 15, okay? Look, I want you to be heard on this podcast. This podcast is meant for you. It's meant for the community. I want you to come in here and be able to express how you feel. I want to be able to have these sports conversations with you about these topics and really get different perspectives. So if you want to be heard on this podcast or you're interested in even becoming a future guest, be sure to reach out to me. Okay. Go through the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. That's the best way for direct contact. And reach out to me and let's talk. Because this show is about you as we talk about sports. We can talk about all the updates and highlights that we want to talk about on this show. But I invite you and I encourage you to come out here and give us reach out to me. Let me know what you guys think about these conversations. Week number 15 is among us. Tonight we have Thursday Night Football, Atlanta Falcons, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There are a few teams that I will explain here in a moment that can clinch a playoff spot. One team can clinch a division with a victory this weekend, so we'll talk about that in a moment. As week 15 approaches, if the playoffs will start today, this is how the standing lies. In the AFC, we have the Denver Broncos have the number 1 seed, but they're tied with the Patriots at 11-2 record. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars with the 9-4, and the Pittsburgh Steelers 7-6. Our wild card, the Chargers 9-4, Bills 9-4, Texans 8-5. On the outside looking in, Indianapolis Colts with an 8-5 record, Baltimore Ravens, Kansas City Chiefs, and Miami Dolphins with the 6-7 record. Over in the NFC, the Rams hold the number 1 seed with the 10-3 record, followed by the 9-3-1 Green Bay Packers. The Eagles have an 8-5 record. Buccaneers have a 7-6 record. Wild card, Seahawks have a 10-3 record, followed by a 9-4 49ers, and then the Bears. On the outside looking in, we have the Lions at 8-5, Carolina 7-6, Dallas 6-1, Minnesota's 5-8. Look at this list, and we look at Miami, Kansas City, Baltimore. If any of them lose, and Houston or Indy could pick up a victory, they're eliminated from the wild card position. Minnesota's flirting a loss against the Cowboys this Sunday Night Football. This Sunday Night Football is going to be between the Vikings and the Cowboys at AT&T Stadium. The winner may keep their position alive in the postseason for a postseason battle. But you have to win. The loser goes home. Plain and simple. Bright as day. There's no chance to go around it. So there's a couple eliminating games. A part of those eliminating games we've mentioned, the Bengals are on verge of elimination. They're not in the wild card. It comes down to the division. They need to win out. And the best thing that starts off with a victory against the Baltimore Ravens. They've already beaten them on Thanksgiving, so it's not unideal to beat them again. If they could beat them, they'd move to 5-9. The Ravens will move to 6-7. Miami and Pittsburgh has a Monday night game, and Pittsburgh needs to at least lose 3 of the next 4. And this is the challenging part because Pittsburgh, out of all the schedules in this division, Pittsburgh has probably one of the most easier schedules. After Baltimore, it should look like Cincinnati should pick up the final 3 wins of the year. But if they don't win this game against Baltimore on Sunday, the best they could do is 4-10 or 7-10, excuse me. And that's not enough for a division victory. Baltimore moved to 7-7. They will need to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. So if, let's just say, Cincinnati wins and they could win out, they move 8-9. Baltimore means that they lost against Cincinnati, so they move 6-8. They would have to beat Baltimore or Pittsburgh on the final game of the season. That moves them to 7-7. They have the Packers and the Patriots coming up after in between. They would have to at least split to be 8-9. If not, lose 2. Pittsburgh, the Steelers have to lose. No questions asked. They have to lose at least 3, if not 4 games to be eliminated from the postseason. AFC South, Jaguars, Houston, Indianapolis. Let's remember that the Jaguars beat the Colts last week. Daniel Jones went out. Phillip Rivers questionable for Sunday as he came out of retirement to join the Colts in a desperation factor of the Colts keeping this miracle season alive for them. Remember, this team started off 7-1, and now they're facing third in the South. They take up a tough challenge because the Colts have one of the toughest divisions, one of the toughest schedules heading into the final stretch of this season, as they got to face the Seahawks, the 49ers, Jaguars, and Houston, all which are winning records. The Chargers have a golden opportunity to eliminate the Chiefs from the postseason for the first time in 10 consecutive years. You've heard that right. The Chargers have the opportunity of eliminating Kansas City Chiefs by beating them today or this Sunday. With a Houston or Indy victory, Baltimore, Kansas City, Miami lose, they're eliminated from the playoffs. So, there are a few teams that can clinch this weekend, and hold a playoff spot. So, first team, the Denver Broncos. Well, how can they clinch a playoff spot? Is by beating their game as they're home to Green Bay, or they would have to tie with the Jacksonville or Chargers loss, a tie with Houston or the Indianapolis Colts tie or loss, or the Colts and Houston need to tie or loss, but they both can't do the same. It becomes very problematic, so you got to bear with me. The Patriots can win a division championship for the first time since Tom Brady if they beat the Bills this Sunday. That's at 1:00. Or everything else or if they can do everything else that Broncos team scenario as also hold. The Rams, also a team who could clinch a playoff spot. All they need is a win. Teams that are so far eliminated already: New York Jets, Cleveland Browns, Tennessee Titans, Las Vegas Raiders, Washington Commanders, New York Giants. I got the New York Jets, the first one. I don't know if I said that. Atlanta Falcons, New Orleans Saints, Arizona Cardinals, and we're looking at a few more. Games that we're kind of trolling and keeping an eye out. Tampa Bay is tonight against Atlanta. Cincinnati is home to Baltimore. That is a desperate do or die. Buffalo and New England is going to be another primetime game. The Chargers and Chiefs will be another primetime game, in my opinion. Lions and Rams, to see if the Rams could clinch their playoff spot. Denver and Green Bay, both playoff teams. Indy and Seattle, because I'm curious to see if Phillip Rivers does return this week. And if he does, how will he perform? You have Sunday night football between the Vikings and the Cowboys. We have Monday night football between the Dolphins and the Steelers. So that's what we're looking into heading into week 15 this weekend. So, if you're Cincinnati, we're kind of just scratching our heads. I'm looking at this. I'm trying to do anything I can to share with the Cincinnati Reds who I believe could be a good Reds for this year. What Reds player, since we're not going to get our hands on Kyle Schwarber, since we're not going to get our hands on Pete Alonso, who on the free agent market, who on the trading block can benefit this Reds organization? I was skeptic yesterday hearing it for the first time about Ketel Marte and Brandon Lowe. I've slept on it. I think if we could get Ketel Marte, that would be an addition to this organization. I still think we need to add depth in our outfield, preferably power hitting guys. I don't think we're going to even think about being a serious team unless we add someone that is worthy enough mentioning. And we could go back around the circles. Cody Bellinger is still out there. Josh Naylor, Ryan O'Hearn, Larissa Rise, Eugenio Suarez, Kyle Tucker. These are players that are still available on the free agent market that would be big deals, big improvements to our offensive at-bats. So, does the Reds have what it takes to extend their homework assignment and try to better this team in that way? It is going to be a dark winter. We already know the almanac says that, Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati is going to have a bigger winter than they've had in years past. And that may not just be true for the weather, but it may be true for the Cincinnati Bengals. They are up against elimination via a loss against the Ravens. It's a do or die scenario. And it doesn't seem to me that Joe Burrow is happy with the position that they're at. And who blames him? I wouldn't be happy. I am coming back to save this ball club, and this is what I have to offer. This is what I have in return. I have a crappy offensive line, a defense that's given up 40 points. I maintained a lead last week. Sure, I gave up 2 errors, and that's my fault. I'll take responsibility. But I still outperformed this team for a loss last week. The bigger question is if this continues, what does the future hold for Joe Burrow and the Bengals? A lot of football action to come your way. And week 15 is going to explain a lot more. Well, that's all the time I have today for this episode. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I appreciate everyone's support, whether you're listening to this on one of your audio platforms or watching this on our social media accounts. Be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button and have those notifications on so you don't miss a single episode. Until next time, you guys, thank you and have a nice day.